Yeah, no, I see you. I'm trying to get.
Good morning, Rabbi. How are you today? Huh? Very nice. What?
Yep, it started.
Yeah. Okay.
I just told you when we were younger, it's the second home.
Yeah, but that grandma.
Absolutely. I'll see you later. Hi, Rick. Thank you. Do you want to sign?
Oh, my pelvis.
Oh, are you? Oh, you're.
That's it.
Have a long that's how things started. Better than you always did everything, huh?
We'd be sitting up on the side.
So it's a.
And so, I took your school.
They all do that.
Back inside.
A lot of
Squinting.
Yeah.
10:30, so in, oh, there he is. Are we waiting for anyone? Okay. Are we gonna be talking? Yeah, that's fine, and we'll be going. Yeah, we'll just. Oh, okay, everybody, the service is about to begin. If there are some folks out here who would like the honor of being a pallbearer today, please meet us in the back of the coach. 4 to 6 people typically, not a requirement, but if there's some folks out there who want to help, please come on over. And everybody else, please come kind of gather around. The seats are for family and folks who need them. Everyone else, just if you could gather in kind of a circle around that, bearing in mind we are live streaming, so please don't block this. And finally, if you could just make sure your cell phones are silent or in airplane mode, that would be most appreciated. Thank you.
You're just standing in front of it. Am I allowed to?
Yeah.
I don't know. You're her son, so
No, I can't.
oh, you can't?
Direction.
Stay with Uncle Bruce, okay? No, don't stay here. Careful. Yeah. Hi, my loves. Oh.
No.
Hi. Do you recognize what? You want a present? Okay, well, not right now. Maybe later. Hey, say, do so. Look at the head.
Zelda.
Here. Oh, okay. Hey, Reva, Zelda, can you stay with me, please? There is. No, you're not going to, Angel.
No. Gonna meet you. There's something inside the hole.
That's where we're gonna put Grandma Shelly. Then we can come here and visit her. We can think about how much we love her. Okay?
I don't want to be in the hole.
No, you're not going to be. Don't worry.
I'm not going to be in Valley. Where's Mom Shelly?
She's in there, baby.
Grandma Shelly.
You being careful, Les?
No,
No, you're not, Angel.
If I'm there in the big hole, I will go. And I'm not Barry.
Hey, Reva.
I told him, I don't know what he's doing with the mask. He don't need.
Go ahead, find the people. Everyone, come on. You can gather in a little bit closer, avoiding the snow. There's some chairs for folks.
Just checking on this thing. It's a little temperamental. Yep, family, folks who need seats, go ahead. We have plenty.
Morning, everyone. We're going to begin with Psalm 23, first in Hebrew, and then we'll all say it together. It's familiar words in English. Yizmor leDavid Adonai roi lo echsar. Tfinot desha yarbitzeini. Almei menuchot yinahalei. Nafshi yeshovei v'yancheni b'maglei tzedek lema'an shemo gam ki elef b'geit salmavet. Lo ira ra. Ki ata imadi. Shivtecha umishantecha. Hema yinachamim. Ta'aroch lefanai shulchan neged sorurai. Dishanta bashemen roshi kosi levaya. Achtov v'chesed yudufuni kol yemei chayai. V'shavti b'veit Adonai v'orech yamim. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. Guides me on the paths of righteousness. Restores my soul. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Thy rod and thy staff comfort me. Thou preparest the table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Our God and God of our ancestors, our rock and our Redeemer, 1,000 years in your sight are as a passing day, an hour of night. Our generations come and go, you endure forever. You're always in your hand, O Lord, in death as in life, trusting in your love and in your decisions. O Lord, in heaven, strengthen those who mourn the loss of Rochelle, Shelly, Barkan. Help them to look beyond this moment, to realize that death does not destroy the bonds of love. Sustain them with the knowledge of our faith that you do not abandon souls to the grave. You never allow your faithful to suffer a beat. You, O Lord, have taught us the way of life. Through you, our refuge, we gain eternity. Let us also. Amen. I think it's pretty safe to say that none of us really want to be here this morning. We're here to say goodbye to, as her family put it, the kindest, sweetest, and most loving people, Shelly Barkan, devoted wife to her husband Phil, her children Bonnie, Bruce, and their partners, grandchildren Rachel, Scott, Sarah, Matthew, Amanda, and great-grandchildren, Riva, Zelda, Lincoln, Benji, and Noah. We all knew that this day was inevitable, but it doesn't make it any easier. We would be forgiven perhaps for thinking that Shelley would live forever. There was just something about her love of life that just made everyone think that there's just more to do. There's more people in the world to make happy, more family members to keep happy. That was Shelley. Lo amut ki ahyeh. I will not die but live. A refrain that we say on holidays when we recite the Psalms of Hallel, the Psalms of praise to mark the holiday. The psalmist maybe was thinking of her. He said, Lo amut ki ahyeh. I'm not ready to die. I have too much left to live, and I have too much to do. In one of the memorable statements made by our sages, they tell us that God takes the tears that are shed for someone that is referred to as an Adam Kasher, a kosher person, places them on a special shelf right near God's throne. And immediately, I know many of us are probably thinking we've heard the word kosher when it refers to food. But what does it mean? Why would the sages have used the phrase Adam Kasher, a kosher person? They could have said an Adam Chashuv, an important person. They could have said a great person. They could have said a nice person or a gentle person. What is meant by a kosher person? I think the sages meant that if someone lives a life of integrity, lives a life of gentleness and extending themselves to others, they embody what the sages would call a kosher life, a kosher legacy, life of closeness to family, service to the community, and of reverence for God. I was talking to Phil just a few minutes ago, and I happened to notice, since we're at the Eskinos family plot, it's the final resting place of Shelley's parents. There's an unusual phrase that I think applies to Shelley that is on her father's side of the stone. In Hebrew, it says, Af pam lo hitloni. There's never a time when he, in this case, she, complained. Me'olam lo hayu lo dushut. Was always humble. Was always looking for little for herself, and instead wanted to find the most for others. I guess it is true in this case that an apple did not fall far from this tree. Because from what I heard in this marvelous conversation in my office yesterday with the family, that did embody Shelley's behavior. She rarely thought of herself first, always thought of others. And it's an easy thing to say, but we have in front of us someone who lived by that value. And I don't know that there are many people who did it as well as she did. This is not to say that she was always the sweetest person. You always knew where you stood with Shelly. She would tell you. And then you would go on as if everything was just fine. And it was. Because she wasn't the kind of person to remember or hold any kind of grudge. But if she felt that she needed to let you know something that she thought was right, she would do it, and she would do it in a way that you would remember, but you wouldn't regret. She was that kind of person. Next week, we're going to welcome the new Hebrew month of Shabbat. Shabbat is known for having a holiday for trees called Tu B'Shvat, the 15th day of Shabbat. It's the Jewish Arbor Day. In our tradition, a tree is a potent symbol. It's often a metaphor for a human being. The trunk of the tree is solid, strong, upright, and firm. Its branches grow right from the trunk itself, and they in turn have branches of their own. The tree may sway in the wind and bend this way or that, but the best of them never break, but remain strong and true. This was Shelly Barkan. She was always firm and strong, mostly in her own beliefs and her own values. She was a woman of great integrity. She said what she meant and meant what she said. You would easily think she had very high standards of everyone around her. And it may not have always been easy measuring up. But if you could say that you did your best, then you were okay. But the real truth was, if she had high standards for others, it's because she lived those high standards for herself. There are many things that all of you here know as members of her family and friends about Shelly. And we're going to call on certain members of her family now, grandchildren, who are going to share personal reminiscences. I have to be careful not to share things that I was told. That's going to be in my speech. Don't say that. So I have not done that. I'm going to turn the podium over to them, and I'm going to ask you to give them your attention. Then we'll wrap up near the end. Put things into, I think, a very beautiful context. It is very beautiful.
My grandma Shelly helped raise me. And when I say that, I mean for my entire life. I don't remember days without her. She has been a constant, loving presence in my life from the day that I was born. Grandma Shelly is the best example of love and care I can think of. She's also so stubborn and headstrong. I know I wouldn't be who I am without her. She showed me how to give everything I have to the people I love, while also not putting up with just anything or compromising. Through every up and down in my entire life, I could always count on my grandma. I can't even tell you how many times I would call her or show up at her house because I was mad at my parents or for any other reason. No matter what, she was always there for me and would always give the world to me. She would celebrate every high with me, and I know I could always count on her to commiserate or complain about any low or difficulty with me. When my sister Sarah and I were with my grandma in the hospital in the emergency room, it was one of the scariest and most stressful times we've ever had with her. A social worker came in and she was talking to my grandma. She was trying to make a point about balance in life or dealing with both bad and good things or something along those lines. She asked my grandma, she said, "Would you want your granddaughters to eat ice cream for every meal?" Grandma Shelly said, "Yes, absolutely. Give them whatever they want." The social worker clearly expected a different answer, but this sums up my grandma to a T. All she ever wanted was for her kids, grandkids, and everyone she loved good things, the best things: joy, happiness, indulgence, every desire to be met 100% of the time. I know this isn't realistic, but she would argue with me about this, especially when it came to her great grandson, Lincoln. She fought hard to make sure his every desire was met at all times. And while, as a parent, this is not something I was on board with, this is just the epitome of Grandma Shelly as a person. She only wanted good things for her family and would do and give absolutely anything for us. Some of my favorite memories are traveling with my grandparents. I was so lucky in how much time and truly quality time I spent with my grandma over the last 36 years. Grandma Shelly was always so silly and fun, taking me to a drag show in San Francisco way before drag was mainstream, exploring the redwood forests and admiring trees with Grandpa Phil for what I thought was way too long in my young mind, and calling him Boss Man. I wish I could go back and savor those long moments, not rush, but I'm so lucky that I got them with her. Grandma Shelly loved eating good food. I'm super lucky that I had her and my grandpa to introduce me to an amazing variety of cuisines. If it were up to my parents, I don't think I ever would have tried seafood. We always ate all the good food, whether at home or on travels. I can't think of exactly when it started, but Grandma Shelly was so silly. She would do the crab, which, not pinchers like this, something like this. And when she got too full after eating all the good food, in a sing-songy voice, she would say, "Burst and die, burst and die." We would all laugh and laugh. Fellow diners or restaurant staff gave us strange looks, I'm sure, but we were too busy laughing and enjoying each other's company to really notice. Grandma Shelly was always open to new experiences. I know she didn't want to eat sushi, for example, but every time I found a new restaurant that I wanted her to try, her and my grandpa were on board. We would meet for lunch and they would always give it a go or find something on the menu that they did like. Never once in my life did my grandma tell me, "No, I don't think I'd like to try that place." How can I possibly sum up the 3.5 decades that I know out of well over 80 that Grandma Shelly lived? One of the hardest parts of writing something like this and remembering someone you love so dearly is getting it all. How can I possibly put into words everything that my Grandma Shelly was? I've had this conversation with my grandpa just about how anyone could possibly sum up their life in a few paragraphs or a few pages. He wrote poems to my grandma through their entire relationship. She saved all of them. Something he said to me is that he would set one down and come back the next day when he couldn't think of how to phrase or finish it. He suggested I do that with this speech. The thing is, every time I step away and keep thinking of my grandma, more comes to mind. There's more I want to share. More good memories, more funny stories, more thankful moments. I know that everyone here loved Grandma Shelly. We all loved her so much, and there's nothing I could say to make the hurt of losing her better. I asked Grandma Shelly what she thinks happens after you die. The thought of being without her and not talking to her is something I can't bear. I asked her to please be a poltergeist, to give me signs, to throw pictures off the wall. She told me, "I don't know if I'll be able to do that, but I'll try." And again, this sums up my grandma. She will always, always try any request of her. I know she loved me and all her family so deeply, and I'm so grateful for her. I can only hope that one day my children and grandchildren will be able to think of me in even as close of a light as I do her. Grandma, I love you more than I could ever say. I'm so thankful for you. I really don't know how we're going to go on without you, but I can't wait to clean up some broken glass from the pictures thrown off the wall.
So the first thing I want to make clear is that Grandma told me that we aren't supposed to be sad. She doesn't want us crying. She wants us happy and celebrating her life. We are not allowed to be sad. Of course, that's a ridiculous ask. If she didn't want people to be sad at her funeral, she shouldn't have been such a loving, wonderful, fun-spirited, graceful, brave, generous woman. It's impossible not to mourn her loss, but here's my attempt to celebrate who she was. She was brave and graceful and absolutely hilarious in her constant dichotomy. Like how someone who moved so slow could disappear so fast in a casino. How someone so small and weak could be stronger and braver than most. When our cruise ship had a zip line, I thought she was joking when she said she wanted to try it, but the joke was on me. While I was filming her flying across a 15-story empty space, I heard so many people point at her and say, "Look, the 80-year-old woman's doing it. You can be brave too." She was also so forgiving. I think it was hard for her to not be when she loved us all so much. But when I was young, I remember yelling at her. I don't remember why, and I'm sure it wasn't important. What I do remember is that when I called to apologize, she told me she already knows that she loves me no matter what. And that if I needed help hiding a body, I could always call her. Because if she couldn't help me drag the body away, she could always take the blame for it. It's hard to pick a favorite memory, playing Old Maid or bakery, or telling me how talented I am for the simplest things, watching her play with Reba and Zelda. One memory does stand out right now that I haven't mentioned, and there's an alligator dentist game where you push down the teeth and then it'll chomp down on your finger if you push the wrong one. I always loved playing this game with her, even though it terrified me. She'd always push the teeth in for me when it got close, because she never wanted to be anything less than happy. She never wanted me to be upset. Grandma, I'm so sorry. I'm so upset right now. I miss you, but I know you'll forgive me, as you always do. There's no way that we could share the entirety of the truly gorgeous soul that Shelly Barkan is. She had well over 80 years of sharing her love, laughter, and graceful spark with the world. Her impact from those years is deep, and I know we'll feel it. To quote some boring philosophy, I'd like you to think of a wave. You can see it, you can measure it, you can hear it coming to the shore. And then it crashes against the beach, and the wave is gone. But the water is still there. Her love is still there. Her silly gestures and stories and sayings. Her wanting the best for us. It's all still there. We might be burying my grandma today, but I know she's still with me. I can still hear her yelling at me. Take another bite. Buy the new shoes. Give the kids ice cream despite not having dinner. I can feel her love and support even now, and I know I always will. I love you, Grandma.
Taking a cue from what we just heard, I'm not going to quote some boring philosopher. I'll quote one of our time's most interesting and intriguing and wisest people, Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry is a very successful individual, but his success is not only professional, his success is also very personal. He has a lot of wisdom that he is willing to share. Since we talked about trees, he says he has a tree analogy, a tree test that he subjects to all of the people in his life. And I'm just going to paraphrase. He says some people are like the leaves of a tree. And leaves are shaky. They fall off. And when the going gets rough, maybe you're depending on someone, they fall away like a leaf. You can't blame them. That's the way they are. Some people are like branches, he says. Branches are a little firmer, a little stronger, but they can also break, and you can't blame the branch. It's the way it is. He says some people are like roots. If you think of a tree and think of the roots, it's the part of the tree that you don't see. They're hard to find, these people, because they're not trying to be seen. Their job is to hold you up and to help you live a strong and healthy life. If you thrive, they're happy. They stay low key and don't let the world know that they're there. If you go through an awful storm, you may sway a little bit, but the roots will hold you up. And that's their job, to hold you up, come what may, to nourish you, feed you, and water you. Just as a tree has many limbs and many leaves, but few roots, human beings are like that too. And Tyler Perry asks each of us to look at our own lives. How many leaves, branches, and roots do you imagine you have in your life? And what are you in other people's lives? Thank God for roots, and try to be a root to many. Shelly certainly was the matriarch of this generation of her family. But she was also a root. She was their anchor. And everything Tyler Perry imagined about subjecting those in his life to this tree test, Shelly exemplified what it meant to be the root for others. Always putting others first, never looking for accolades for herself. Everything that she did, this was her legacy. And we would continue that legacy and make her memory a blessing by trying to be the same way for others, those in our lives, and those who are going to come after us. She had a gallant, joyful, and wonderful 87 years here on this earth. Not the longest time anymore by today's standards, but she made the most of it. She impacted so many others, especially those nearest and dearest to her. And they returned that favor by being by her side through thick and thin, especially near the very end. Phil, her caretaker, not just her husband and lover, but also her primary caretaker these past 10 or 12 weeks when things are really tough. Children, and all those, they were the angels that accompanied her until she could take flight on her own and become the angel that she is from this moment on. May her memory always be a blessing. May her soul ever rest in peace. Let us also. While the casket is being lowered, we're going to give the direct mourners a chance to fulfill an ancient tradition of tearing an item of clothing, or in this case, a ribbon. I ask everyone to imagine what it was like in the ancient world to tear an article of clothing. People did not have closets filled with wardrobes. And it was quite an investment to tear clothing. It was seen as a sign of cathartic grief. And we're going to allow the family to do this now with tearing of a ribbon. blessing, Baruch answer Amen. Baruch blessed are you. Shov el far haaretz keshahaya. Ruach tashuv el Elohim. Dust returns to the earth as it was. Spirit returns unto God. We're going to invite members of Shelly's family to come forward and place her into her final resting place. And after the family does this, if there's anyone here who's not family, they'll be able to come forward as well.
I want to see a baggie with lots of dirt. Bag of dirt from Israel.
These are my two bags, so no. Is it like a grocery bag or like a
I think it's a Ziploc. Is it in the bag?
No, these are my bags.
Oh. And you didn't bring it?
No.
Feldman doesn't have?
You.
Oh,
Is that what they're looking for?
I thought that's what you mentioned. Yeah. You have to request that. It's not automatic.
It depends on the rabbi.
Oh.
They like to do part of their ceremony or not.
Hatsur Tamim Bofalo Ki Chodrcha Mishpat. Elam Navin Avel Tzadik V'Yashar. Hatsur Tamim Achopo V'Yomer Lo Matifal. Ashalit B'Matau B'Ma'al Mimit B'Chayem B'Nishol V'Yah. Hatsur Tamim Achoma Asem V'Yomer Lo Mata'aseh. ובזכות הנאחד כסי הקשיבה ועשה. צדיק בכל דרכיו אצור תמים, מרח אפיים ומלא רחמים. חמון ובחוס נלבות ובנים, כי לך אדוני סליחות ורחמים. צדיק הצלי המיתו לי החיות אשר בידך פקטון כל רוחות. חלילה לך זכרננו למחות. ויהיו עיניך ברחמים עלינו פקוחות. כי לך אדון הרחמים והסליחות. אדם בן שנה יהיה, אבל 1000 שנים יחיה, מה יתרון לו כלא היה יהיה. ברוך דיין האמת ממית ומחיה. דיין אמת, שופט צדק ואמת, ברוך דיין האמת שכל משפטיו צדק ואמת. צדק חי בידיך, צדק מלא ימינך. רחם על פליטת צאן ידיך וצמר למלאך חרב ידיך. גדול העצה ורב ההללויה. אשר עיניך פקוחות על כל דרכי בני אדם. לתת איש כברכה וכפרי מעליו. ויגיד כי אשר אדוני צורי ולא עברת בו. אדוני נתן ואדוני לקח, יהי שם אדוני מבורך. והוא רחום יכפר עוון ולא ישחית, והבול ישיב אפו, ולא יאיר כל חמסו. The family in mourning is going to offer the words of the mourner's Kaddish. It's the first time we're saying the Kaddish for Shelly of blessed memory. Their job is to say the Kaddish. Our job is to answer Amen, Yehi Shmei Rabbah at the appropriate time. I'll be saying the Kaddish together with them. Who directly are going to answer Amen at the appropriate time. Yitkadal v'yitkadash. Amen. V'olma v'yira kusei. V'yamlich malchusei. V'yechom v'yomechom. V'chaye v'chol beis Yisrael. V'agala v'zman v'yim v'baruch. Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah v'barach v'olam v'leom hayah. Yitbarach v'yishtabach. Yitma'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei l'kudsha v'yichu. Ve'ela mikol derchasa v'shurasa. Tushbachasa v'nachemasa. Da'amiran v'olma v'noameh. Yehi shlama rabba v'shmaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'noameh. Oseh shalom b'mroma. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. V'mru amen. El malei rachamim shocheinu b'mromim. Amitzeinu v'nachona tachat kanfei Ashkenaz. B'malot kedoshim u'tohorim. Kezohar harakia masirim et nishmat. Vayisharei sobat Ruven v'chava shalacha li'olama. V'gan Eden tehei menuchata. Ana ba'al rachamim. Astireha b'seter kanafecha li'olamim. Utzeror mitzor ha'chayim et nishmata. Adonai hu nachalatam. V'tanuach b'shalom ha'mishkava v'nomar amen. O God, exalted and full of compassion, grant perfect peace in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure, to the soul of Rochelle Joan Barkan, Razel, the daughter of Reuven and Chava, now rests in her eternal home. We beseech you, O Lord, to remember all the worthy and righteous deeds she performed in the land of the living. May her soul be ever bound up in the bonds of our lives. May she ever rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. We're going to do one more ritual before we return to our cars. I have to make one announcement. Following the conclusion of our service, period of mourning is going to begin. It's going to take the rest of today and tomorrow till 4 o'clock tomorrow. And also, it's at 1 o'clock till 4 today. So for 1 o'clock till 4 o'clock today and tomorrow, there'll be an opportunity to go pay respects at the home of Bonnie and Ken Lower on Atchison Way. I don't have the number where that is. During that visit, not before 1, but during that visit, at about 2:30 or 2:45, there's going to be a brief afternoon service, in which we'll be able to say Kaddish again. That'll take place today. I'll be conducting that service. And then we'll have visitation till 4, and then tomorrow again. Your presence at the house, source of comfort to someone's family, and a fitting way, especially if you're there for the service, to allow us to do the ritual necessary to pay tribute to her with the words of the non-mourners this morning are going to make a double line. We'll do it maybe. Some of you will face me. How should we do this? Where is how do you want to do the double line?
Right here. I'll make it.
Okay. So some people will face me, other people will face that way. And Shelly's family is going to walk through the line, and you all say a series of words after me. We'll do them one at a time, but 8 words. The words traditionally the family has said that if you wish to go to the house immediately following the conclusion of the sermon, you are able to do that. You're welcome to do that. Yeah. Okay, you can make your way through. Please say the following words with me. Hamakom.
Hamakom.
Yinachem.
Elohim.
Etchem.
Etem.
B'tov.
B'tov.
Sha'ar. Avelei. Sion.
Zion.
Yerushalayim.
Yerushalayim.
And in English, may God comfort you and all who mourn. Zion for Jerusalem. All saved.
Amen. Thank you for anyone attending on our live stream. That does conclude our service for today.